When Allied tank crews rolled into battle during World War II, there was one sound that made their blood run cold: the sharp crack of a German 88mm gun. Veterans later admitted they feared it more than any enemy tank or aircraft. To them, the 88 wasn't just a weapon. It was a death sentence waiting to strike from miles away. The story of this gun begins far from the battlefield. In the 1920s and 1930s, German engineers were secretly preparing for war. They designed a heavy anti-aircraft cannon, the 8.8-centimeter Flak 18, to bring down high-flying bombers. Tall, powerful, and able to shoot shells miles into the sky, it was supposed to be a shield against aircraft. But war has a way of bending weapons into new roles. In 1940, as Hitler Adolf launched the Blitzkrieg through France, German troops faced Allied tanks head-on. The standard 37mm anti-tank gun, nicknamed the Door Knocker, barely scratched British and French armor. Commanders were desperate. Then someone ordered the tall anti-aircraft guns to lower their barrels and fire directly at tanks. The results were devastating. One shell, one kill. In that moment, the 88mm cannon found its true calling. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, leading the Afrika Korps in North Africa, quickly realized the weapon's power. He placed 88s in hidden positions, baiting British tanks to roll forward. The moment Montgomery Bernard and his crews advanced, the desert erupted. The long-barreled guns punched through armor at ranges no Allied weapon could match. Even Churchill tanks, named after Winston Churchill himself, were torn apart before they got close. Veterans later said it felt unfair, like walking into a trap designed by a master. The Allies tried everything. American gunners rolled out the M2 howitzer for support, the Browning M1919 machine gun for cover, even the reliable M1 Garand rifles in infantry hands. But none of these could silence the 88s once they were dug in. Only concentrated airstrikes and artillery barrages had a chance. The 40mm Bofors and 37mm gun M3 helped against German aircraft and lighter vehicles, but against the 88mm, they were hopelessly outclassed. When Eisenhower Dwight prepared for the Normandy landings in 1944, his greatest fear wasn't just the Atlantic Wall or the German infantry. It was the possibility that hidden 88s would destroy his tanks and transports on the beaches. Bradley Omar and Montgomery argued endlessly about how to neutralize them, knowing every minute of delay could mean dozens of burning Shermans. On D-Day itself, countless Allied soldiers advancing inland discovered exactly why the weapon had earned its reputation. The MG-42, Germany's terrifying machine gun, laid down sheets of fire. But the 88 was something different: precise, surgical, and brutal. From hedgerows, forests, and fortified bunkers, it struck at long range. Crews could switch from shooting down Allied bombers in the morning to smashing tanks by the afternoon. Few weapons in the entire war were that versatile. Hitler Adolf himself became obsessed with the gun, demanding more and more of them. German propaganda films, often narrated by Joseph Goebbels, hailed it as proof of German superiority. And to be fair, it often was. Allied tank crews nicknamed it the Black Death. Even the mighty Soviet T-34s, which had shrugged off smaller guns, fell victim to its piercing shells. But no weapon can change the course of a war alone. As Allied numbers grew, as American industry poured out endless Shermans and artillery, and as Soviet armies surged west with their own firepower, the 88 became less of a trump card and more of a symbol. Still deadly, still feared, but fighting against the tide of overwhelming Allied strength. By the end of the war, tens of thousands of 88s had been built in various models: the Flak K-18, Flak K-36, Flak K-37, and the later Pak-43. Each one refined, each one deadlier. After the war, Allied engineers studied them carefully. The lessons of the 88-shaped modern tank guns and anti-aircraft cannons for decades. Looking back, the 88mm gun was more than a piece of steel. It was a symbol of German engineering brilliance twisted by a brutal war. For Allied soldiers, it meant terror, loss, and respect for an enemy's craftsmanship. For historians, it remains one of the most iconic weapons of the 20th century. And for the men who faced it, from Normandy to North Africa, from Russia to Italy, it will always be remembered as Hitler's most feared battlefield trump card. Subscribe for more untold World War II stories.